Shopping season, bowl season, football season. This is the Pick Six Podcast. I'm Evan Bland with Tom Chattel and Sam McEwen with the Omaha World-Herald. And here we are back in mid-December, and football season, the regular season's technically over, but things have actually picked up, I think. We're past signing day now, but it's bowl season. Nebraska's making coaching changes. Are you guys keeping up with everything? It feels like you go 10 or 20 minutes, something's probably going to break while we're recording this thing, as much news as is happening right now.
Yeah. I think the transfer portal piece is hard to keep up with sometimes because there's so many different guys leaving, and there's walk-ons that weren't going to play that have to go because they can't really be sustained in the program anymore. And so trying to figure out what everybody's doing. Probably going to be one or two more guys who are in the portal who come back out of the portal and go back to Nebraska. That won't surprise me in the least. So that's a lot of movement for sure. The coaching stuff, I think, is – well, we'll talk about John Butler being hired. I thought maybe he'd go through an audition period, and let's see what happens with the bowl game. But I think they're ready to do what they want to do there and move forward, probably for recruiting purposes and for clarity purposes. So, that was a little bit of a surprise, but not like a shock. I thought John Butler would eventually get the job, but I wondered if they were going to give him a 3-week ramp and just see how it went. Obviously, Matt Rule likes how it's going in camp, in bowl practices. So that was a little bit of a surprise, but everything else seems to have kind of fallen in line.
How do you handle it, Tom? I mean, I know you're not big on the minutia of all the details and the transactions. Like, what catches your attention here in the last few days with all the happenings going on with Nebraska?
Well, I'm probably naive, but I'm surprised at how much money is driving everything in the portal. I mean, these guys that leave and come back, it's obviously money. I mean, it's everything is money. It's just I probably shouldn't say everything, but it just feels like, I mean, today Missouri lost their number one recruit from last year. He didn't play. He played like one game, and now he's gone. And it's money. These guys are renegotiating after 1 year. Everybody. It seems like everybody's doing it. And it's now I understand the roster limits are certainly driving some of them, but there's a lot of them that are just out there that are just moving around, trying to find a better deal. And that's why you hire John Butler now. That's why you go get the D-line coach with the Chiefs, because the portal's open, and if you're going to attract players, you got to be able to tell them this is going to be your coach. So, it used to be you could wait until after bowl season to make these moves because you still had a month of recruiting left, but now you don't.
So Nebraska's been busy with the coaching turnover. A week ago we talked about they lock in Dana Holgerson as their full-time offensive coordinator. They hired DeKel Shorts from Kentucky to coach receivers. And now this week, like you mentioned, Sam, John Butler goes from interim DC to permanent DC. You bring in Terry Braden to coach defensive line from the Chiefs. Phil Snow, who was with Matt Rule at all of his other coaching stops, comes out of sort of consultant semi-retirement to be the associate head coach. And then Philip Simpson this week also comes back from Florida State, who he'd been at Nebraska previously. A lot of Miami connections. He's going to be your outside linebackers coach. Do you sense kind of a theme in these hires, Sam? Is there an area of strength maybe that Matt Rule fortified with some of these additions?
Well, I think Phil Simpson's going to be a recruiter, and I'm sure that the former Chiefs assistant who's coming here to be the interior defensive line coach will be the same. Even if he hasn't done it yet, he's probably going to be very effective on the trail by saying, I have Chris Jones' number here in the Rolodex, and Chris Jones will be in the Hall of Fame one day. And so that's a pretty good, sweet deal to be able to call upon players like that, to help you get your name out there. And then I think Phil Snow, we'll ask Rule about this on Thursday. I think Phil Snow could be in more of a almost an advisory role. He may be part of the defensive coaching staff, but he also, I think, will be doing some things for Rule that are just related to the global picture. And then John Butler is going to be your defensive coordinator. I'm sure he's going to work a little bit with Phil Snow on some game plans, but I think the thing that you're going to get with John Butler is a more multiple system, and you're going to get coverages that are a little bit different and maybe help you create some more turnovers. And so I think Butler will be a little bit more multiple with what he's trying to do, and they'll probably be a little more multiple up front with some of their fronts. And nothing wrong with the 3-3-5. I mean, I think Tony White did a great job here, but I think there's also times where what you want to get done, especially in against the pass, now that the passing games are a little bit more sophisticated in the Big Ten, you're going to need some different schemes. And so I think that's kind of the global picture of it from my perspective. Again, the NCAA lifted the ban on, lifted the lid on how many assistant coaches you can have. Mm-hmm. So now a guy like Phil Snow, he doesn't have to go on the road and recruit. He can just be an internal guy. Whereas, Braden, he goes out, Simpson goes out, Dvorak goes out, your secondary coach, whoever that's going to be, goes out. Those are your recruiters on the defensive side of the ball, and Butler doesn't have to do much, and Snow doesn't have to do much. And I think that's a pretty good setup for Rule.
Are they going to hire a secondary coach?
I would anticipate that they will, unless Phil Snow is taking that job, which I don't. Again, that's not my sense of it. I would say that your secondary coach then becomes, and that could be that they just promote somebody from within, but that guy's also going to be a recruiter on the road, and Keith Williams is going to be a recruiter on the offensive side of the ball. Holgerson's probably not going to do much. He'll probably stay in-house. So you can also move the 10 guys that you have out on the road. You can move a guy out, and you can pull a guy back in. And so will Ed Foley continue to go recruit? I don't know. I mean, you're not looking for walk-ons anymore
right.
out in Louisville, Nebraska, or Wahoo or any of that. So I think they'll probably have a different recruiting plan. But you can have 18 assistants, and Nebraska may well have somewhere along that number by the time they start spring camp.
I wonder if the Butler promotion is kind of going under the radar, not just because of everything else going on, but because of kind of the timing of his arrival at Nebraska. I mean, he was that late summer edition. He wasn't really part of the plan. But like a year ago, if he had been hired in a similar situation, I mean, he was in line to potentially be the DC for the Buffalo Bills. He was very highly thought of as an assistant. Like, do you guys get the sense that this is sort of, I don't know, an underrated hire in the sense of just kind of the circumstances that led him to getting this position?
It's too soon to say. I mean, he's only been here a year, and he coached the secondary, and they had their ups and downs,
right.
But they've also had injuries. What I like about these moves is, especially with Butler and Snow and Holgerson, is it brings experience to the staff. How many staffs have we seen the last 20 years in Nebraska that didn't have experience? That were just buddies of the guy, or guys on the way up, or the Bo Pelini staff was not that experienced. Mike Riley's had some, but not like this. And certainly Scott Frost's staff did not have a lot of experience. At this level, at the NFL level, I mean, these guys have been around, and I love that. And I had somebody talk to, well, isn't this, why does Matt Rule need Phil Snow? Shouldn't he be coaching? What's he doing? It's like, that's his job. He's the CEO of the program. He's surrounding himself with advisors and experience. It's a good thing. It's a very good. These are good things. So, and frankly, I think Butler and Snow and Holgerson, I'm not worried about them going on the road to recruit high school kids. They're there to recruit the portal. They're the experienced guys who know college football personnel, know what they want as coordinators. They're there to bring guys in the portal. I mean, I think maybe this is Matt Rule's nod to we have to be more active in the portal.
That's a good thought. I think it's just a situation where, and I've seen some fans online sort of overreact and think that they needed to go out and get some other name. And I think that's honestly a tip to Matt Rule's ability to get Tony White. Like that turned out to be a success, and I think people's perspective is, why don't you just do that again? I just don't think they need to do that again. And it doesn't mean that their defense is going to be better next year. In fact, I would argue statistically it won't be. The area where it needs to get better is in takeaways. They need to create more takeaways. And that might be something that John Butler can get done, but some of the other stats probably won't be as good because some of the players who created the success that they had over the last 2 years are gone. So, I don't think there's anything untoward about promoting Butler. I think maybe fans have a little bit of trepidation with some of Rule's coaching choices because of Marcus Satterfield. And it appears that situation has been rectified with Dana Holgerson's hire. And yes, I do think that Satterfield was not the ideal hire for that position, and they probably lost a couple of games because of it. But there's nothing they can do about going back and changing that. They did what they did. They hired Holgerson, and now going forward, I think the coaching staff appears to be in a stronger position than it was going into last season, even with White's departure.
He's also the guy who hired Tony White. So, I mean, people get all upset about Satterfield. I mean, I get it, but I mean, he's put together a nice staff, and these are the same people that loved John Butler back in July. Oh, this guy's a great hire. He could be the next coordinator. And now that he is, I don't know about this. Make up your mind.
The Phil Snow one is interesting too, because, like you said, Sam, it's a nod to how the rules are changing. Like, he doesn't have to be assigned a position to coach. He doesn't have to go out on the road, but he's not an analyst. He's the associate head coach, and so it's kind of like he's, Matt Rule Jr. in the sense that he's overseeing the operation from a football perspective, but he still has nothing that he needs to worry about from a CEO standpoint.
I love that.
It's an intermediate sort of spot.
They've got 60 people on the staff. They got 1 million people like that. They got advisors, consultants, people working the portal, people working this, working that, everywhere. So that's what this is. And that's what you need in today's world. And wait till revenue sharing is. Then you'll have another layer of people. I mean, I really believe that every school, and maybe Nebraska's already set up for this, every school will need a general manager. Anybody that's serious about college football will need a general manager, because you don't want the coaches saying who's going to get paid. I would never make a coach do that in a million years. And the coaches wouldn't want that job. They will retire before they have that job. Or you're getting $500,000, you're getting $100,000. I can't explain why. That's just how it went. I mean, in the NFL, they don't make them do that. And I guarantee you, when Belichick goes to Carolina, he's not doing that. He didn't do it in New England. Well, maybe a little bit, but you have a general manager who does all that stuff, decides who gets what's money. So, Nebraska has a general manager. I don't know if he's going to do that job, but I don't think it'll be Troy Dannon. Although somebody's got to decide how much the volleyball players are going to make out of the pool of money, basketball players. So it's going to be interesting to see who does that job. But yeah, the way Nebraska is set up now it's really a sign of the times, and I think it's great. And what I'm curious about with Phil Snow is, why didn't he come 2 years ago, and why is he here now? What changed in 2 years? Maybe he wasn't ready. I don't know.